Welcome to Valley of the Sun Real Estate Show. Anything and everything you need to know when it comes to your real estate needs. Hosted by Jayson Bates, who comes with over 19 years of experience that you can trust and has been known to take a turn down and turn it around into an approval. And by Tina Waggoner of the Waggoner team, serving both buyers and sellers with over 2,000 homes sold in the Valley of the Sun and 30 years of experience in the Valley. They are the real deal in Phoenix real estate today. Hello, Phoenix. This is Jayson Bates, your host of Valley of the Sun Real Estate Show. I am excited to be here today on Wednesday. It's pretty hot out here in Phoenix. But on today's show, we're going to talk about down payment assistance. And I get asked this question quite often when it comes to purchasing a home. A lot of people want to know what programs are available out there when purchasing a home. And I do have to just start off here by saying that Tina Waggoner is not going to be joining us today. Unfortunately, she's got some other arrangements, but I still wanted to put this show out there because I think it's very, very important to get this message out there about down payment assistance. So with that being said, these down payment assistance programs that I'm going to go over today are specific to Arizona and more importantly to Maricopa County and even to some cities, specifically Phoenix, Glendale, Peoria, Mesa. Not all down payment assistance programs are universal across the state. And there are quite a few actual down payment assistance programs that are available out there, but they're not all available to everyone. And so that's what we want to try to clarify today, or that's what I would like to try to clarify today, is some of the down payment assistance programs, when you can use them, how you can use them, with what programs you can use them for. So with any down payment assistance program, you can only use it on a primary home. You can't use it to purchase an investment property. So if you're looking to purchase a primary home, the one that you're going to be living in, then you can use down payment assistance. And certainly if you have questions during this show or during this episode, you can email me at valleyofthesunrealestateshow@gmail.com. You can call me after the show on my cell phone at 602-573-3101, or you can call into the show, and that number is 929-477-1204. So as I was saying, with the down payment assistance, they're only for primary homes only. They're not to be used for second homes, investment properties, or anything really other than a primary home. The other important thing to note here on the down payment assistance programs is that they're really used on FHA loans only. Can't really use down payment assistance. You can't use down payment assistance on a conventional loan. You could use them on a VA loan and an FHA loan, and primarily most of them are an FHA. As we know, VA loans are 100% financing, so you really can't use them for that. However, you can use some of the down payment assistance for closing costs. As the market turns into a seller's market, a lot of times the sellers aren't willing to pay some of your closing costs. So you could use the down payment assistance programs to help pay for closing costs. So that's a pretty good deal. Now, with each one of these down payment assistance, and I'm going to go through the list here, and I've got a lot of them here. So I'm going to run through them, and I'm just going to put some bullet points on each one of them and kind of go over which ones that are most popular, which ones that have certain restrictions and things like that. So if you got pen and paper, you might want to write it down, or certainly, like I said, you can email me, and I'd be more than happy to email you the list of all the down payment assistance programs that are available out here in Phoenix, Arizona. So with this first one here, it's the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, and this was put in place back when we had our financial troubles in our country, and it actually is a pretty good one. The loan is forgivable, and this is where I gotta bring it all kind of full circle here a little bit, because some of these down payment assistance programs are what they call silent second mortgages, and what that means is that you can get the money for the down payment, but then they'll place a lien on the property, so that if you go to sell the property or refinance the property, you have to pay that loan back through the proceeds of the sale or the refinance. So sometimes that's not, a long-term good strategy. I always tell my clients that if you can get the money through family members or work or church or some other type of resource that might be at your disposal, that's probably going to be a better deal than going through these down payment assistance programs. Not always, but, it is a good resource to use as a down payment assistance when you're doing gift money from a family member. It's important to note here on the down payment assistance programs, nothing really comes for free. We all like to think that we get things for free just because we want to be a homeowner and we're a U.S. citizen and we pay our taxes, but money just doesn't come for free. So some of these down payment assistance programs have restrictions, but for the people who truly need the down payment assistance, the down payment assistance programs are a lifesaver. I mean, they really are good. So I'm not trying to downplay the down payment assistance, but at the same time, it's important to note that if you have other resources, that might be a better option. Because some of these down payment assistance programs come with debt-to-income ratio restrictions. All of them do, actually. You have to take a class for these programs, a HUD class. And I can direct you on all of those parameters, and we're going to go over a few of them here. But if you have a resource where your mother or father, aunt, uncle, brother, sister can gift you the money for the down payment, it makes for a little less stressful transaction because you're not having a third party get involved in the loan process. And when I say third party, the Neighborhood Stabilization Program is run by the City of Phoenix. And so they're going to be looking at the loan, looking at your financials, looking at your overall profile to see whether or not you qualify for their program. And so that's just another set of eyeballs looking at your profile that could disrupt the process. But if everything's good, and I wouldn't certainly send you to these programs if you weren't good, so you first got to call me. I can be reached at 602-573-3101 or email it at valleyofthesunrealestateshow@gmail.com. And we would go through these programs and see which one fits best for your particular needs. So Neighborhood Stabilization Program, City of Phoenix, it's for that. It's for the City of Phoenix. But it is up to $15,000. Yeah, $15,000. That's a lot of money. And that loan is forgivable. So if you keep the home more than 7 years, the loan is forgivable. If you keep it less than that, then it's prorated and you got to pay a portion of that back. And when I say keep the loan, that's what I was referring to earlier about either selling the home or refinancing the home. Now, the household income for that is at or below 120% of the area median income, or AMI. And the area median income for Maricopa County at 120% for one person is $52,000. So if you're one person and you're trying to purchase a home, you got to make less than $52,000 a year. And if you make less than $52,000 a year, then you qualify for that Neighborhood Stabilization Program. Your debt-to-income ratio cannot exceed 31% front-end debt ratio and a 43% back-end ratio. So front-end ratio, what is that? I get asked that. That is the relationship between your house payment and your income, no other debts. So if your house payment's $1,000, that $1,000 has to represent no more than 31% of your gross income. So it's about $3,000 or $3,100 a month. So, and then 43% is the other debts. When we take your car payments, student loans, credit cards, that sort of thing, we add that to the house payment, and your debt-to-income ratio can not exceed that 43%. Most lenders kind of look at the total debt-to-income ratio, which is that back-end debt-to-income ratio, the 43%, to qualify you. But you, on this particular case, you can only go to 43%. So, and 31. They do look at both. They just don't look at the back-end ratio. On a traditional FHA, there are some front-end restrictions that apply to an FHA loan for housing ratio, which is that front-end debt-to-income ratio, but it's a little bit higher than 31%. So this is a little restrictive, and all these down payment programs are a little restrictive. They're really in line with the qualified mortgage parameters. However, there are a lot of lenders like myself who can go above these debt-to-income ratios and still get you qualified. And that's what I was kind of going over before, is that when you can, if you have the resources to go and get your down payment as a gift from a family member, your church, or even your employer, you may have a higher purchasing power because your debt-to-income ratio, I can go higher on the debt-to-income ratio than what I'm going to be able to do on the down payment assistance program. And with prices going up and the pressure on price on homes, having that higher purchasing power might be an advantage for you. So again, these down payment assistance programs are truly meant for people who need that resource and cannot get into a home without the resource. And then on the neighborhood stabilization, just to kind of summarize it up here, you do have to have 50% of your own money for down payment. So if you're required to put 3.5% down, then you've got to put 1.5% down out of your own pocket. So on a $100,000 loan, that's $1,500 you'd have to put down. So that's not bad. That's pretty good, all things considered. Now, the next one here that I want to go over is Open Doors Initiative. Now, an Open Doors Initiative, that's also, it's actually run by Community Housing Resources of Arizona. I think Desert Mission Neighborhood Renewal also runs that, and Chicanos Por La Casa also runs that here in Phoenix, Arizona. That one has similar restrictions. You can get up to $15,000. You got to be at or below 80% of the area median income, and 80% of the area median income for one person is $34,000. So if you're one person purchasing the house, you can't make more than $34,000. If you're a family of four, then the total combined household income cannot exceed $49,500, to give you an example. And then you got to be at 25% front-end ratio, 25 to 33%, and then a back-end ratio of 41%. So it's a little bit less than that neighborhood stabilization program there at 43%. And I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers out here, but at you. But I hope you're getting some value out of this, because it is very confusing, and you do need a licensed loan officer like myself who has experience with these down payment assistance programs to kind of walk you through it. If you were to call these down payment assistance programs on your own, yes, they can help you. Yes, they can, walk you kind of through the process. But at the end of the day, it's the lender who can get you qualified that's going to get the job done, not the down payment assistance. They're just kind of a byproduct of what we're trying to accomplish here, which is getting the loan. So it's very important you call somebody like myself who can walk you through this process. Again, my number is 602-573-3101, and I can be reached at valleyofthesunrealestateshow@gmail.com. Now, on the Open Doors Initiative, you got to put a minimum of $1,000 into that transaction of your own money. So a little less than that 50% of the required down payment. Neighborhood Housing Services, DPA, that's run by Neighborhood Housing Services of Phoenix. That's up to $7,500, at or below 80% of the area median income, and your debt-to-income ratio cannot exceed 45%, or 33% on the front-end ratio. And then on that one, you have to have a minimum of $1,000 down out of your own pocket as well. So, again, they're not complete 100% programs, but to get into a home, the equivalent of paying $1,000, that's the equivalent of paying first and last month's rent. So there's really no reason why you couldn't be a homeowner other than your income, because 80% area median income, excuse me for my stutter there, that's not very much income here in Maricopa County. So a lot of people are disqualified based on the income, and that can be a little frustrating. But I've got some other down payment assistance programs that we're going to go over here a little bit later in the show that don't have these restrictions on the income, which are very, very popular. It's also important to note here on these down payment assistance programs, that they don't always have the money. So they get funded by the federal government. The federal government sends the city of Phoenix a certain amount, or allocates a certain amount of money to the city of Phoenix, and it's up to the city of Phoenix to use that money. If they don't use it, they lose it. So, or if they use it all, that's it, until they reallocate funds. So not all these programs, it's not like the money's just sitting there in the bank waiting for somebody to come claim it. it gets claimed, and then it's gone. So it's kind of a first-come, first-served basis. And so it's important there to talk to a lender like myself who can walk you through that process and make sure that the funds are available and ready for use. The other thing, too, that I want to make mention before I forget here on these down payment assistance programs is that typically these down payment assistance programs, it takes anywhere from 45 days to even 60 days to get this money. And so it's not a quick process. And when you're in a seller's market, if I'm a seller, then I'm going to look at the contract and see if there's down payment assistance, or if I see there's a long close of escrow, I might pass on that contract in favor of one that maybe has a shorter term on the contract or shorter close of escrow period. If everything else is equal, the price is equal, the offer price is equal, everything else, and just the close of escrow, one has a longer close of escrow and the other one doesn't, I might be a little more apt to take the one that has a shorter close of escrow. Now, not always, because sellers do have their own time frames too. Sometimes the seller wants a longer close of escrow. But that's where you need a good realtor like Tina Waggoner who can help you through that process and negotiate that out as well. But to think that this money is just a click away and getting this down payment assistance, I'd be doing you a disservice if I was to kind of advertise that. These do take time because there are, like I said, there are classes, homeownership classes that you have to take. Typically, those can run anywhere from $50 to I think the most expensive one I saw was $150. They generally are 8-hour classes. A lot of times you can take them online. But that you do get a certificate that I do have to have that would accompany your loan when it gets underwritten. So it's not something we can, we have to have that. And sometimes those classes fill up, and then you have to talk to a counselor, and that counselor then has to go over the responsibilities of home ownership and what it means to you and your rights as a consumer when owning a home and purchasing a home throughout the lending process and the purchase process. And they have limited resources with the staff that they have, and so that can get backed up a little bit. And so that's why it takes a little bit of time. So you have to have a little bit of patience when it comes to these deals. But once you have that stuff kind of lined up, and then it's pretty simple, pretty smooth. And I have a lot of people who have down payment assistance, and they really, at the end of the day, when they get their home, they're very, very happy with it. Also, one thing that I want to point out here is on these down payment assistance programs, and I'm kind of skipping around here, I understand that, but these things can kind of get complicated, and each one's a little different. So I'm trying to summarize each one of them. But you need to be a first-time home buyer. I mentioned that it has to be a primary residency, but you also have to be a first-time home buyer. And as a first-time home buyer, that definition is you can't have owned a home in the past 3 years. So you can have owned a home 5 years ago that maybe got foreclosed on or did a short sale or whatever, and you've been renting for the past 5 years. You're then considered a first-time home buyer, so you're okay. You just can't own a home within the past 36 months. So, and then on the Open Doors Initiative, that $15,000, as I said, it is forgivable, but you have to be in the home for 15 years, and you can't refinance it for 15 years. So on that one, it is forgivable. I think I mentioned 7 years. It's actually 15 years. So it's important to note that. So again, each one of these is a little different, and it does get a little complicated. But I'd be more than happy to go over your situation if you want to reach out to me, again, at valleyofthesunrealestateshow@gmail.com or at 602-573-3101. Now, the next one here I want to go over is the Matthew Henson Home Ownership, and it's run by Community Housing Resources of Arizona. It's up to $8,500 of down payment assistance, at or below 80% of the area median income. I think we went over that. And debt-to-income ratio is at 31% front end and a 45% back end, so a little more aggressive on that debt-to-income ratio. And you have to put the greater of $500 or 1% of the purchase price down. So typically it's going to be 1%. So on $100,000, that's $1,000. And really these, because of the income restrictions, you're probably not going to be purchasing a $300,000 house with these down payment assistance programs. However, when we talk about these down payment assistance programs, they can be stacked. So, in other words, you could take this Matthew Henson program and couple that with, say, the neighborhood stabilization program. And so now you got $15,000 from neighborhood stabilization plus the $8,500 from the Matthew Henson, and all of a sudden you're at $23,500. Well, $23,500 could increase your purchasing power, say from $100,000 to maybe, say, $115,000. Now, I use $115,000 in that example and not $123,000 because you do have closing costs. And if the seller's unwilling to pay closing costs, we need to make room within that down payment assistance program for closing costs. So it can help you purchase a higher priced home. So these things can happen. I've done them before, and it doesn't happen all too often just because it takes a lot of patience from the buyer. And because you got to do you got to see two counselors. You got to double everything up, and so that can take a little bit of time. And in the meantime, you might be looking for a house. You find the house that you want, you fall in love with it, and then we can't get the down payment assistance, and you lose the home, and then it gets frustrating. So you do have to practice a lot of patience when it comes to these down payment assistance programs. I can't stress that enough. With the realtor and myself involved, we're not trying to sabotage anything. We're just dealing with some government entities here, and sometimes those government entities just don't work as fast as we would like for them to work. So, do keep that in mind when making your offers. And certainly when I would talk to your agent, I would let them know, hey, we need a longer close of escrow. We don't want a shorter close of escrow. And now with the Matthew Henson, $8,500, that one is also forgivable, the $8,500, if you keep the home after more than 5 years. So on the Open Doors Initiative, it's 15 years. On this one, it's actually 5 years. That's what I was saying before, how confusing it can be. If you keep this loan and you get the $8,500, you got to stay in the home for at least 5 years. After 5 years, you don't have to pay it back. If you refinance or sell the home within that 5-year period, you've got to pay that $8,500 back. And like I said, like I was saying, it can be layered with the City of Phoenix Neighborhood Stabilization Program. And it is for first-time home buyers, and you can't be more than 80% of the median income. So, again, family of one, $34,650, and then a family of four, that maximum income, and I'm just looking at my income calculations here, is $53,550. So that gives you an idea of the income restrictions. And when I say it's a household income, if you're the only one on the loan and your wife or your significant other or spouse or whatever, husband, is not on the loan, I'm still going to use that income. So it's not just your income or the applicant or the person who's going to be on the loan. It's not just their income. It's the total household income. So if you've got your mom or maybe a retiree living with you, and they get Social Security or some other kind of income benefit, then that income is going to be used when qualifying you for these income restrictions here. So it's important to note that as well. Another program here is the Section 32 homeownership programs. It's run by the City of Phoenix. That one actually is a rent-to-own program, 20% discount of the appraised value on selected homes in the city's inventory. So that one, we're going to want to talk to a good realtor who's going to be able to look those particular properties up. I don't know if there's actually any of those properties that are even available currently because it is such a still pretty hot market. But once inventory comes up a little bit more, I think some of those homes will become available. Now, there's also a neighborhood stabilization program in the city of Glendale. Now, this one's up to 3% of the purchase price toward closing costs and 50% of required down payment. So that's the parameters on that one. It doesn't really give any dollar restrictions. It's just up to 3% of the purchase price toward closing costs and 50% of the required down payment. Got to be at or below. Now, this is a little bit different. It's a little more aggressive when it comes to income, but at or below 120% of the median income. So that's very similar to the neighborhood stabilization, or exactly the same as the neighborhood stabilization program for the city of Phoenix. Debt-to-income ratio on this one is a little more aggressive. It's about the same. It's 36% front-end ratio and 41% for the FHA loans. And you got to have a minimum investment of $1,000 in that one. And then now we're also looking at neighborhood stabilization program for the city of Mesa. Same thing, up to $15,000 or 15% of the purchase price, whichever is lower. At or below 120% of the area median income, and a 43% back end with 31% front end debt-to-income ratio, and a minimum of 1% of your own funds invested into that program. Neighborhood stabilization program for Chicanos por la Casa. That, you know, a lot of people actually take advantage of this one. It's the same, but it's not specific to any particular area. I think it's for the entire Maricopa County. I have to double check on that for us. I don't do too many of those, but I think it's for anything in Maricopa County. It's not restricted. Like the city of Mesa, it has to be in the city of Mesa. City of Phoenix has to be in the city of Phoenix. In the city of Glendale has to be in the city of Glendale for the property location. At or below 120%, 31.43 debt-to-income ratio, 3.5% of total down payment is your down payment that you have to take advantage on that one. So that one's really going to be kind of complementary to what you have to do on an FHA. You got to put 3.5% down anyway on an FHA, but that would help with closing costs and also increase maybe your purchasing power on that. Chandler has a community land trust program. Now, this one is, I've never seen this one happen. I see these quite a bit. Chandler has one, Tempe has one, Newtown, and I think a lot of the builders actually, if you've gone out to a new home subdivision, a lot of times they'll kind of advocate this. And what this is it's the Newtown matching funds program. And with Newtown, what happens there is that they set up a savings account with you, and then they match your funds threefold. So if you put $5,000, if you save $5,000, then it's the equivalent of $15,000. So they'll match those funds. It is a savings, I don't want to say thrift account, but it is a savings account that Newtown sets up with you. Again, you have to take a home buying class, but you can certainly take your money and triple it, basically. You do have to go through an enrollment interview. You must be a first-time home buyer. You can't have more than 80% of the gross median income for Maricopa County. And it's an hour-and-a-half workshop that you have to attend, plus a home buying class. You do need a pre-qualification from a lender like myself. You do work with a housing counselor on those. And it's a pretty good program. I know a lot of the builders use that one to help people save for down payment because it's such a long build-out time, maybe 6 months. Within that 6-month period, if you can save a few $1,000s, then they can triple that, and that would be enough to help with your down payment. So on new builds, this one works pretty well. There's not too often that you're going to get somebody who's going to get you under contract on an existing home and wait 6 months or 4 months or however long it takes for you to save up some money to execute your contract. But certainly you could get into this program, save up some money, and then go under contract. So if you're planning on purchasing in the next 66 months or so, this might be a program that would fit your budget. So now I'm gonna kind of skip ahead here a little bit because there's one program here that and I've got just tons of down payment assistance programs here. And so you can please reach out to me if you got questions about down payment assistance. You can call me at 602-573-3101, or you can email me at valleyofthesunrealestateshow@gmail.com, or call me at 602-573-3101. But this next one here is the 0.5% down FHA loan. And it's something that only certain lenders allow for. Myself included. I think there's a few other lenders here in the Valley that offer this program. This program is pretty good. Now, I'm going to go over two programs here. Now, those other programs, there's no real FICO score requirement. We haven't talked about that a little bit, but there's no real FICO score requirement. Most lenders are going to require a 640 credit score. I myself can go down to a 580 credit score. But on this particular program, you can go down to a 580 credit score with me and still get this loan done. And this is a 0.5% down. So if you're purchasing a $100,000 home, just to keep the math simple, you need $500, and that's it. So this one is, for single-family homes. It's not for condos. It's not for unless the condo meets the FHA requirements. But single-family residencies, PUDs, which is planned unit developments, FHA condos, and 2-unit properties, as long as they're owner-occupied, and even a manufactured home you could do this with. So it's for owner-occupied properties only, first-time home buyer. You can't have any other FHA loans. You go down to a 580 credit score. You can also have no credit score and even qualify for this program, which is pretty amazing. So this is really, truly an FHA loan. Now, what happens here is there's a first mortgage with your traditional FHA loan, and then there's a small second to make up that down payment or down payment assistance. So it is 2 loans, but the second loan is I think the second mortgage is at 8%, and it's such a small amount that it's maybe 50 to, depending on your price range or whatever, but $50 to $75 a month in payment. So it's the equivalent basically of you saving your own money for down payment. It's just that we're giving it to you up front. So this is a 0.5% down program. It's a really popular program because it doesn't have the restrictions on the debt-to-income ratio. You don't have to take classes, although I do ask my buyers to take a homeownership class, and quite honestly, everybody who's taken that homeownership class for these down payment assistance programs comes out with a newer sense of, or a good sense of what it means to be a homeowner. I've never had anybody come out of those classes saying that was a waste of my time. I've always had people come out of those classes saying, hey, that was really worth my time. I really learned a lot. I really appreciate you having me go through that class. So, in fact, I get a lot more questions when people come out of that class asking me, hey, Jayson, what about this? Or, hey, what about that? And so I know they've gotten some good value out of it and some good information that they can use, and really empowers you to make the right decision for you and your family. Now, this one does have income restrictions as well. This one's at 115% of the area median income. So 115%, family of 1 is $49,910. Family of 4 would be $71,185. So that income's pretty good. Family of 4 making $71,000, that's pretty decent income, and it makes it pretty affordable here in Maricopa County. So that's pretty good. Like I said, you can go down to a 580 credit score. There's no restrictions on debt-to-income ratio or any of that kind of stuff. So it really makes for a smooth and easy transaction. We've got a lot of people that take advantage of this program, 0.5% down rather than 3.5% down, and it really, really works out really well. So if you've got any questions about that program, by all means, reach out to me, valleyofthesunrealestateshow@gmail.com, or you can call me at 602-573-3101. I'd be happy to go over your situation and go over what we can do and how we can structure to put the right program together for you. Now, the other thing that the other popular down payment assistance program is the Home in 5. Now, the Home in 5 program is for Maricopa County, so there's no restrictions on property or city or area or anything like that. So Home in 5 really lets you, as a home buyer, explore the entire metropolitan Phoenix area for this. Now, I've got also the same program for Pinal County, but we're just going to talk about Maricopa County today. They're virtually identical. So if I cover one, I'm pretty much covering both of them. So if you live in Pinal County, we certainly can help you out with that down payment on this Home in 5 as well. And let's see here. I'm just kind of going through my notes here. On the Home in 5 program, there are some restrictions when it comes to debt-to-income ratio. Can't exceed a 45% debt-to-income ratio. The maximum or the minimum credit score is a 640 credit score. So you do have to have that 640 credit score. So unlike this 0.5% down program that I mentioned just before, this Home in 5 program, where it can go down to a 580 credit score, on the Home in 5, you got to have minimum of a Home in 5, you got to have a 640 credit score, and on the 0.5% down, you go down to a 580 credit score. And then on the Home in 5 program, you got a maximum debt-to-income ratio of 45%, where on the 0.5% down, we don't have that restriction. So we can certainly go higher on that, which increases your purchasing power. So that's good. And then also on the Home in 5, it is, they call it Home in 5 because it's technically 5% contributed toward your down payment and or closing costs. But there are some fees associated with that program. And so you as a consumer, you really net out 3% for down payment and or closing costs. So what happens there with that 3%, you still have to put a 0.5% down, which is typically your earnest money, $1,000. And then you still have closing costs. So it's not enough to cover closing costs and down payment. So you do still have to ask the seller for some seller concessions. If the seller is unwilling to do that, then you're going to be responsible for your closing costs, which, as a rule of thumb, depending on the sales price, is about 3% of the sales price. Of course, on a more expensive home, it's a little less than that. On a cheaper home, a $60,000 home, it's going to be a little bit more than that. It's going to be about 4%. So that gives you a good rule of thumb of what the closing costs are going to be. And the Home in 5 program isn't going to quite cover all of the closing costs. And if you're a U.S. military personnel, with that Home in 5 program, it will allow for 6%. 6% to be used for your down payment and or closing costs. And the income restriction on that is $88,340. So it does go pretty high. For U.S. military, there is no income restriction. If you're currently in the military, no income restriction. And if you're a civilian and not in the military, you're using it as an FHA, maximum income for household will be $88,340. So that's why that program's a little more popular, because it doesn't have that really restrictive income. Most people who live on their own making $30,000 a year really can't afford to purchase a home. It's really tough. It's not a lot of money after taxes and everything like that, so it gets pretty difficult to purchase a home. But Home in 5, brings that up to $88,000, so a lot of people taking advantage of that. So I've kind of gone over quite a few here. I've got a lot of other ones, individual development accounts, IDAs. Those are the savings, 3-to-1 matching funds. Also CAMP, City of Tempe. There's just all kinds of down payment assistance programs. So I'd love to help you out and just go over any of these down payment assistance programs in person with you if you'd like. You can call me at 602-573-3101. Or you can email me at valleyofthesunrealestateshow@gmail.com, and I'd be more than happy to sit down on a one-on-one with you and go over these down payment assistance programs. Now, I'm also going to, just say and reiterate this here. It's not necessarily just about the down payment assistance. If you have the resources to get the money from other areas, such as a gift or something, you're going to make your life a lot easier throughout the loan process. You're going to make yourself more attractive to sellers when you're making your offer, therefore increasing your chances of your offer getting accepted. But if you truly need down payment assistance, then please call me. I'd be more than happy to go over these down payment assistance programs. But just remember to keep, the patience hat on. I don't want to set expectations that, you're going to close in 30 days with down payment assistance. It's just not going to happen. Now, with the 0.5% down program, yes, you can close in 30 days. In fact, you can close in 21 days with that type of program. That's also part of the attractiveness of those programs. When you're not involving some kind of government entity in the transaction, because that 0.5% down is something that we offer internally. It's not something that the government's involved in. So we've got a lot of control, or I've got a lot of control with my underwriters how that process works. And so that speeds that process up, and therefore making your offer a little more attractive to the seller. So again, this has been Jayson Bates. I really appreciate your time and you listening to this down payment assistance. I hope you got out of it as much as I put into it. I know I went over a lot of the programs here, and I went through them very quickly. I understand that, but there's a lot of ground to cover when it comes to this down payment assistance program. I wanted to get it out there because it is important. Down payment assistance, as more homeowners are becoming eligible for financing. Finances are tight. It's still not where it was in our economy, so finances are tight, and I certainly understand that, and I want to get this out there because if you are looking to purchase a home and the only thing holding you back is the down payment, there are options out there, and they're good options. So I'd love to help you out. Give me a call anytime, 602-573-3101. We can discuss your particular situation, get you some help so that you can get into a new home. And you can also email me at valleyofthesunrealestateshow@gmail.com. So thanks for listening. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to cut a little bit short here. We got about 3 more minutes here, but I'm going to cut it a little bit short as we've got I put a lot of information out there, and if you need anything, I'd be more than happy to send you this list. Just email me. I'll get this list out to you, and we can definitely get you on the path to home ownership. Thanks a lot for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Jayson Bates, Arizona Mortgage Loan Originator, NMLS 220798, Mortgage Banking License is 092-614, Equal Housing Lender. Sound effects today provided by SoundJ.com.